What's up, and welcome back to the greatest teacher of all time, where I, Quincy Dawson, interview teachers of color tied to their philosophies, strategies, and personalities. Today, I've got Alicia. What's up, Miss Adams?
Hey,
How are you? How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Again, thank you so much for being here. I was looking through your Instagram page and just trying to find teachers to highlight. And you are super interesting to me because one, you're a kindergarten teacher, and also it's your first year teaching,
Yes.
right? So yeah, maybe starting on that, how do you choose kindergarten to teach?
So for me, kindergarten was always my favorite grade, growing up. I just remember even now I have like flashbacks where it feels like it was yesterday. Where it was fun. My teacher, Miss Middleton actually was her name. She was just so full of life. She always was pouring into us. Even if I was talking too much, she never really got on me in this like stern way where it made me want to not talk more. It was just kind of like, okay, she's just trying to make sure I'm learning, nail back a little bit. But yeah, kindergarten was just always such a fun grade for me. I never had any troubles. And so that was just something that I was inspired by through my teacher as a kindergartner. And I was like, I want to be able to be that teacher for other kindergartners too. So
Wow. Yeah, it's a great story because like kindergarten, those are like those formative years in your life, right?
yes, building the foundations. And that was something that I was truly inspired by, just seeing, some of the struggles that some kids do go through, and even some of the ones that I recall going through throughout high school and middle school. And so it usually kind of starts with those foundations that possibly weren't built, or maybe they just weren't, redirected the way that they needed to be. So I definitely want it to be that piece and the set in the foundation, because for some of my kids, especially with COVID, this is their first classroom environment, and interaction. So it almost gives me like more pressure, but it's also just kind of like fueling to me because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can be this first person to, set that foundation, be the one that really gets all the basics to them and having fun at the same time. So,
Okay, yeah, and that's the most important part, right? Having fun while you're doing it.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Again, scrolling through your Instagram page, I just want to point out something on your bio, right? So your bio actually says teaching tiny humans, but I'm really the one learning.
Yes.
That could be a loaded statement. What do you mean by that?
So for me, I have just realized, or I realized during field experience throughout undergrad and student teaching, that even though, we were going out there with these assignments to teach them and do the lessons, do small groups, I always realized that I was really still learning at the same time. I mean, sometimes I could be in the middle of a lesson and, something changes and we got to be quick on our feet. And there you go. I'm thinking of something new that I'm having to do because we had a slight change, learning experience, or even just making simple mistakes and letting the kids know it's okay. Teachers and adults, like, we still make mistakes just like you guys, but we're still learning just like you guys are learning. So that's kind of what I mean by that in my bio.
Yeah, and I guess it just highlights the importance of the ongoing learning experience. It never
Yes.
stops.
No, no, it never stops.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Another thing too, right? So I was speaking to another teacher a couple weeks back, and they were talking about the importance of being a reflective teacher and just thinking back on their work and that their lesson plans never stay the same all day, right? Like if you're an English teacher teaching 7 periods a day, that seventh period should be like on fire,
Yeah.
right? Can you maybe talk about the reason why you chose to be so reflective online out loud on Instagram?
Yeah, so for me, I was inspired by seeing how much the teaching community had, I guess, decided. To me, it seemed out of nowhere. Maybe it was COVID, but just to be open about the different things that teachers go through, K through 12. And so I was just really inspired to be able to be someone like that as well online, especially as a first year teacher, because I know originally when I was coming across Instagram pages, it was never first year teachers. It was always teachers that maybe had at least 3 to 5 years on them. And so I was like, oh my gosh, they have all these great ideas and all these, lesson plans and things. But I'm like, they've been doing it for a couple of years. They have some years on me. And so now I have seen more like first year teachers putting themselves out there on Instagram or TikTok just to be able to, share what we're experiencing, share our fresh new ideas, as the veterans will call it these days. So just being able to do that, it helps other people, student teachers, students who are in undergrad before the program and they're still deciding when they come across my page and other first teacher pages. And then it also just helps me to see if any teacher comments or DMs me and they're like, hey, I saw this and maybe this is something that you can add on to it, or this could be a tweak that you can make. So I'm always about constructive criticism, and that's something that I love about the platform and the teacher side of Instagram because everyone just seems to be really helpful and they just like to share. So,
Yeah, that's great. And teachers like me can reach out to you and be like, yo, I was inspired by this. I got to talk to you more, you know?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay. So again, you were talking about you being a first year teacher and highlighting your experiences. That's actually one of the big reasons why I wanted to reach out to you, right? Just get like a newer, fresher teacher experience or
Yeah.
perspective. So I actually want to talk to you about your philosophy in these kindergarten classes. So kindergarten is when you start to do the basics or the foundation on learning how to read,
Yes.
right? Or recognizing words and letters. Can you tell me a little about that? Like what goes on in kindergarten?
Yeah, so for my county that I'm in right now, Gwinnett County, we are currently piloting a new program. And so with this program, we every week we teach two new letters as well as their letter names and sounds. Sometimes we've been getting into about three, but typically it's about two. And so throughout the week, we are building upon that with rhyming and syllables. And then the way that we are flowing into the spring to start getting into decodables to introduce more reading time for them. Since the program itself does not really enforce us to do leveled reading like other programs do. The what it has us do is introduce poems. And so typically they're I think the longest that we've done is maybe about like 10 or 12 lines of a poem. And we just teach the basic knowledge of we read from left to right, top to bottom, and just understanding that there's space in between our words. And so I do have a couple babies that are a little high, and for them, I have in small group or either one-on-one time. I've done more either sentence reading with them, and then also like a few leveled books that we still keep in our classroom from years before. So I'm very thankful for that because that was left for me to be able to use. Yeah, so just kind of it's almost like an introduction for us as far as the reading part. But yes, in kindergarten world, they are learning all the ABCs, the names, the sounds, CBC words, high frequency words, so all those kind of things. And they get into it because sometimes we'll do like fun little letter sound chants. I actually do like I don't know if you can see it, but oh, you kind of can, a beach ball review. And so I have all the letters that we have gone over and I add on to it as we learn more. And they're passing it around the room. And when you catch it, you can't spin it around. You gotta just look and see what hand or finger, yeah, that the letter lands on. You have to say the letter name and the sound. Then they pass it on. And we also do this new thing that's called Boom Clap, and I'll be posting that on my page too soon. So yeah, we do some fun things with it, but that's really the basics for kindergarten, just them really understanding those letter names and the sounds, because when they get to first grade, they're going to start having to read more.
Yeah, yeah, because that's where it all changes, right? And man, you were saying it earlier, but I just remember going back in kindergarten and thinking about, okay, put two finger spaces between each word. And
Yeah,
like the fact that that looks ridiculous now, but like that's what you need to actually learn the foundations.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, man, so I have the lens through a physics teacher in high school, right? And a big thing we talk about is that I don't teach them anything new, right? Physics is just observing what you already know in the world, right? I know the apple will fall from the tree. I know the ball will roll down the ramp, but we're actually getting a meaning to it. Like, why does that happen? Right. So I have something to build off on.
Right.
You starting from the bottom, how does that feel? Like is there pressure like, oh my gosh, if this kid doesn't learn his G sound, like what am I gonna do? Do you ever feel that?
Yes, there is definitely a lot of pressure in that. And for me, I'm actually in a district where it is heavy, like Hispanic population. And I love that because originally, when I first knew that I wanted to become a teacher, I had always said that I wanted to introduce Spanish to my kids, regardless of the population, just because at their age, little fun tip, if your kid knows another language, whatever it is, on top of English, it gets their brain cells like moving faster and thinking quicker on its feet. And so typically a lot of those kids, they end up testing higher because their brain is just going, 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 going with all those different tools and stuff of knowing the two languages. And so when I had the opportunity to move into this cluster with that population heavy and Hispanic, that definitely kind of weighs into that pressure a little bit, just because I do actually have two kids that don't really know English. And so they have that barrier of they're just trying to understand the basic stuff I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like there is one of my little girls who doesn't know English. I did not hear her say my name for the first time until a month into school. Yeah, and it totally like caught me off guard because I was like, oh my gosh, you can actually say my name now. Like that's awesome. You know my name. So yeah, there's just things like that for me that does add a little bit more pressure because I have kiddos that they're just trying to understand the basic English, like a language that they don't know. And so when you add into the pressure of, oh my God, what if they don't know all 26 of these letter sounds or half of the letter names? Then yeah, that can definitely be really just overwhelming. But luckily with my lovely mentor, she always reassures me that, I'm the one that sees from the bottom up kind of thing. I saw where they started at, and if they move even just a couple miles close to that end goal they're supposed to be, they moved. I did something right. So I try and keep myself reminded of that and level headed and just know that I'm doing all that I can in the 8 hours that I have provided, as well as our lovely other teacher supports that pulls kids that needs extra help too. So doing the best that we can.
Yeah, I love that outlook on it too. But yeah, you definitely are putting in that foundational work for these students. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe getting into a little more. So we kind of touched on it earlier, right? But you have that young first year teacher experience,
Yeah.
right? So I think usually when we try to get advice from teachers, right, it's from like the veteran teachers who've been doing it for years, who may sometimes feel like a disconnect from younger teachers, right? Or being fresh in it,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not going to ask you for any advice, but I actually want to know from a new teacher, right? It's November right now in your first school year. What are some challenges about teaching? What's hard about it?
There's definitely hard moments. I probably would say maybe for me, I think there were certain things that I experienced in field experience or student teaching that I really, really loved. And then coming to a completely different county, completely different area as well. It's a lot different in certain aspects. And so for me, that has been a little challenging just because I think I had this mindset of what some things would look like or certain things that I could do and provide for the kids. That's kind of just like a no, like you probably shouldn't do that, or like we don't do that here.
Are you talking
Kind of.
like curriculum wise or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Curriculum wise, I think maybe because of the grade level, I was thinking this idea of that it was the same across the board for the most part, regardless of it being different curriculums, just because, like I said, we get put into all these different schools and different counties and field experience and student teaching. So I've seen other programs, but they all still had about the same foundations. And so coming here with this piloted program that's completely different, as far as literacy, because that's what it's mainly for. It's different, it's a different literacy program. Um, it's had its challenges on me and told of the way that I can teach things. And even planning. Planning has definitely been kind of a challenge. And a little bit of miscommunication with some things. But
That happens.
yeah, I was about to say, but that happens everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, you're gonna have your things that slip through the walls or whatever that doesn't get through completely. But yeah, I would say though overall, like it's just small stuff like that. Curriculum, maybe a little communication errors here and there. Um,
Yeah.
oh, and one other challenge that I just got reminded of it looking at my camcorder is as a first year teacher, we have a course at my school where we do learn about the behaviors from different age groups, but trying to regulate like 5-year-old and 6-year-old emotions when they don't even know what's going on has definitely been a challenge in itself too. So that's been something that I've been kind of just doing my own little research and asking like other teachers and even counselors, like, what can I be doing? What kind of resources can I send home to help them out? Because I want to help them, but as a first year teacher, I'm still learning. I'm learning a lot.
Can we
So,
can we touch on that for a second, right? So, yeah, the emotions they're dealing with. That's interesting that you said that because I'm imagining back in my kindergarten, first grade class, right? You do something wrong, pull a card, right? You pull your red, yellow, or green card, whatever, out,
mhm,
and you feel bad. Like I did something wrong. Maybe I don't fully understand what it is. But like
yeah,
as a older person, if that were to happen, you're able to really assess, like, okay, I did not actually do something wrong, but I could see where you thought I was wrong, right? Is
yes.
that what you're navigating with these kindergarten students?
Yes, definitely. And for me, I'm not the teacher that does the pulling cards
Yeah,
because
people
I
don't.
definitely traumatized by that. Oh, I did not like that at all in kindergarten.
Terrible.
But I have a bucket filler system in my classroom. And so each kid has their own little bucket. And on Mondays, they start off with 5 puff balls, like little arts and crafts ones. Um, and so they have an opportunity Monday through Friday to earn as many puffballs as they can. The max is 20 though. But they're able to earn it based off of good behavior, going above and beyond, participating, helping friends.
So I think that's the part I'm kind of stuck on, right?
Yeah,
How do they know that good behavior is good, right?
it's good.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like what? How do
So
I know that picking up this trash is good? How do you teach that?
right, right. And honestly, that kind of is a challenge in its own too, because I've noticed, or at least at the beginning of introducing my system, I had to, I don't know if the word would necessarily be like validate, but I think basically validate their actions. That way they knew, oh, I just opened up my friend's water bottle. Like that was something good that nobody had to ask me to do. So that's me being a kind friend. So, me, if I hopefully am looking and I see that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so nice of you. Like, thank you for doing that for them because I wasn't available to them at the time. And you just took out, time out of whatever you were doing to help that friend open up their water bottle. So definitely it's that kind of like validating process for them. It's
So
really go down the modeling and examples.
I love that, right? Modeling examples, right? So let's get into it. How do you do the opposite of that? How do they know standing up in your chair is wrong right now? Talking when I'm talking is wrong. How do you get that across?
Yeah, so honestly,
And
it's
is it even wrong if I want to stand up?
yeah, yes. um, well, so okay, with the not so good and what I say is not following the classroom rules or not following the school rules, because we came up together as a class, our classroom rules. And then of course as a teachers we have to go over the basic school rules as well. But as far as them knowing, no, don't do that. What I did was like a compare kind of thing. So if I think for example, maybe one was like, if I told a friend that they looked ugly today, do you think that was a kind thing? No, exactly. So that's not you being a kind friend. Or if I hallway expectations. If you're running in the hallway, do you think that's a good choice or a bad choice? Most of the time they know, like, unless they're outside, you should not be running in the building. So that's a bad choice. That'll get you a puffball taken. Because that's how I do my little system too. Like if they're not following classroom rules or school expectations, they get puffballs taken away as well. So yeah, it's kind of like that little example thing, but then also teaching in the moment as well. I'm trying to think like I don't know, I have a thing with my rocking chair. I'm like, do not go over there, do not touch it. But that was something that slipped my mind like the first week of school and someone tried to, and I was like, what are you doing? That's not your chair. That is
Right, but
not a
how do
good
they know?
choice.
How do they
Right.
know?
Right. It's all those teaching moments, all of those teaching moments, definitely. Because even like, I remember probably within the first handful of days of school, I had a couple kids running around the classroom, and I'm like, maybe I didn't make it clear that you should be walking in the classroom at all times. And so in that moment, I'm like, okay, everybody, stop what you're doing. Let me make this clear now. You are to walk in the classroom just like you do in the hallway. We cannot run. It's not safe. So I feel like in kindergarten, you honestly, and I'm sure other grades too, but definitely kindergarten, lower elementary, you have a lot of teachable moments that happen at the spare of anything because they're so full of life and always doing something. And so there's just always opportunities to teach them, be like, okay, that wasn't a good choice, or yes, that was good. You were following the rules, or be a good citizen, be a good friend, all those different things.
Yeah, I guess we can call the theme of this setting the foundation because that is definitely what you're doing.
It all goes back down to setting the foundation. Because I know something that runs through my mind. I'm like, I do not want any of my kids to go to first grade, and their first grade teacher is like, what was your teacher doing?
Oh, yeah,
You know,
nightmare.
yes, that's just, and I would hope like that, or I'm sure that's about almost any teacher's nightmare to think, oh my gosh, like their new teacher is going to be like, what was I doing?
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine, man.
Yay.
So yeah, thank you for answering the challenges. Maybe on a lighter note, what are some of the most rewarding things about kindergarten specifically?
Uh, they're your like personal hype man. Like,
Really?
they,
You have your own cheerleaders.
yes, they like, I would say almost like a sour patch. You know, they can be sour, but then they're sweet, or even backwards, like reverse. Like they can be sweet and they can be sour, but they keep you on your toes. They're so loving. I mean, being a kindergarten teacher, I'm sure everyone on the team and just any kindergarten teacher in the world, you get so many hugs throughout the day, so many compliments, like, and then also I would say when we're doing formative assessments or even just like observational assessments, like halfway through a unit, just being able to walk around and hear some of their conversations and see the different things that they're doing, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm doing something right. Or even just hearing some of their explanations of things, and you're like, oh my gosh, I taught them that. Like, yes, you're actually learning something. I think it's just rewarding, especially to know, as we've been talking about this whole time, you're setting the foundation in this grade level. And so to see that being put forth in the work that they're doing, in the conversations that they're having right before your eyes, it's a very, very rewarding job and very, very rewarding grade as well.
Wow, Miss Adams, this is great. You got the answers.
Not
Yeah, but again, like,
all of them.
no, but you're working your way towards there, right? First year in, I think you're pretty sharp for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. But again, Miss Adams, thank you for sharing all this, the reasons why you chose kindergarten, how you're getting students to read, recognize sight words, your challenges, your rewards. It's all part of the reasons why I think you might be one of the greatest teachers of all time.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we were talking about this kind of separately, but one of the purposes of this show is to kind of uplift and highlight teachers because they can be so rough sometimes, you know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. Thanks to Transcendence Children Family Services, I want to present to you with this prepaid $100 gift card to use on your student in your
Oh,
classroom.
that is so awesome. Thank you. Oh
Yeah,
my
I got you, Miss
goodness.
Adams. I got you.
Thank
um,
you.
Yeah. So yeah, when the cameras go off, I'll get your address and everything for how to get this to you. But thank you for this.
Yes, yes, of course. My kids are gonna love that. We we always need stuff in the classroom.
Perfect. I'm glad I could help then.
Yay.
All right. Thank you to everyone else for watching The Greatest Teacher of All Time, where I interview teachers of color to highlight their philosophies, strategies, and personalities.